Welcome to Jamaica Magazine, where we bring you stories to inform, inspire, and empower. Today we observe Earthquake Awareness Day for schools under the theme, Prepare for the Quake, Reduce the Impact of the Shake. In this edition, we'll delve into the history of Jamaica's most significant earthquake disasters and explore practical steps we can all take to stay safe before, during, and after an earthquake. I'm Lisa Rowe, and I'll be guiding you through today's magazine. Stay tuned for valuable insights that could save lives. Good day, I'm Lisa Rowe and this is your JIS News for Wednesday, January 15, 2025. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang says he anticipates a continued reduction in murders this year. He is targeting above 20%. 2024 ended with a 19% reduction. Dr. Chang was giving a statement in the House of Representatives on Tuesday.
While we have made significant gains, Madam Speaker, I recognize that there is still critical work left to be done. The road ahead is still challenging and difficult, but the transformation in the security force is organic. The police force we have today, the army we have today, and the personnel in the various areas are not what we had yesterday.
Minister Chang says the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, has adopted a highly systematic approach to disrupting criminal gangs and targeting high-risk criminals. The police are also actively tracking more than 150 unresolved conflicts and over 300 individuals across various communities. This approach involves closely monitoring ongoing conflicts and maintaining detailed records of individuals engaged in criminal activities in order to build strong, robust case files for prosecution.
In order to achieve all of this, was a practice we had to do to enhance. We had to, in fact, expand the police. Proximity policing, along with enhanced public order, we needed to increase in the resource available to the police force. Having increased the human resource of the police, they have operational support teams in every division. They have expanded intelligence branches. We have a high-performance, high-potential training for our CIB officers so that we can quickly create a force of investigators capable of dealing with these crimes. And every area has the area fugitive apprehension team.
A free online course has been launched to strengthen awareness and to further educate Jamaicans about the critical issue of human trafficking. The first of its kind in Jamaica, the course was launched by the Office of the National Rapporteur on Trafficking in Persons on Friday. It can be accessed at onrtip.gov.jm. Highlighting the significance of the course, Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang says it is very important that persons have a better understanding of human trafficking and the nuances surrounding the phenomenon. Dr. Chang's speech was delivered by Minister of State Juliet Cuthbert-Flynn.
With a tool like this, individuals are able to gain access to free and relevant knowledge about human trafficking and will be certified at the end of the course. Through this course, participants will be able to gain practical and valuable knowledge on how to identify indicators of human trafficking, how to recognize the potential victims, and access resources to support the survivors.
The Security Minister emphasizes that recent alarming statistics indicate that the main perpetrators of child trafficking in Jamaica are parents and guardians. It is therefore important to sensitize and train relevant officials and others on strategies to curb this crime. For her part, National Rapporteur on Trafficking in Persons, Diane Gordon Harrison, says the free course is divided into 3 modules and aims to build a preventive network and rubric of protection for persons who are vulnerable in the country. There is a self-test at the end of each module to ensure participants are absorbing the information.
The biggest threat that Jamaica faces in the anti-human trafficking fight is that absence of knowledge, that absence of recognition that human trafficking is not a foreign thing, but it is in fact a Jamaican thing, and it affects Jamaicans both in our country and outside of our country.
Mrs. Gordon Harrison informs that human trafficking continues to be one of the most aggressive forms of organized crime in the world, amassing over $150 billion in profit. The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining has earmarked $6 billion for a 6-year redevelopment program aimed at revitalizing the agricultural sector. Portfolio Minister Floyd Green made the disclosure during a tour of Pan-Caribbean Sugar Company's Froome factory in Westmoreland. At the heart of the transformation is the construction of a state-of-the-art piggery at the Bodles Agricultural Research Station in St. Catherine. The facility will enable advanced genetic research on pig breeds, further strengthening the country's pork industry.
It will be able for us to do genetic works around the various breeds that we have now in Ireland to ensure that we are getting top quality. We have come a far way, and anybody who's been looking at our pork industry can say that we've come a very far way in terms of the quality of the animals.
Minister Green also revealed that approximately $1 billion was already allocated for the project, which is currently in its first year. In addition to the new piggery, the ministry will also construct a modern goat house and dairy facilities alongside upgrades to research laboratories.
We're going to be working on our research station, so we have a plan for Hounslow, we have a plan for Top Mountain, we have a plan for Orange River, Mount Pelion. We want to bring our research stations back up to where they're considered best in the world.
And finally, the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service is encouraging ministries, departments and agencies that have not yet signed up to the government's My HR Plus platform to do so. That's the word from Portfolio Minister Favour Williams while speaking at the Service Excellence Conference and Awards ceremony recently. My HR Plus is a human resource and payroll system within the government service and is a component of the Public Sector Transformation Program.
It enhances the ease of doing business, it attracts investment, and fosters national pride. But beyond the measurable outcomes lies something even more powerful: hope. Hope that the government can work. Hope that everyone, no matter their station in life, has access to opportunities, resources, and support.
Minister Williams says the My HR Plus platform will significantly improve services to employees across the public sector.
A modern, citizen-centered public service is the foundation of national development. When public service is delivered with fairness, care, and excellence, it uplifts not just individuals, but entire communities.
And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Lisa Rowe. Thanks for watching. And now we take a look into what the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs achieved in 2024 with their year in review.
The Constitutional Reform Committee has now signed off on the list of recommendations. The document is being prepared for signature of committee members.
I would like to say to the Jamaican people that the efforts that the government has made is not in vain, that we will continue to pursue consensus, because the truth is that you cannot disturb the constitutional and governance architecture of the country without consensus. That is the reality. And consensus takes time. and it takes effort.
I'm pleased to say the report of the committee is available to members of the public. Read the report of the Constitutional Reform Committee on the transition to the Republic of Jamaica. Cabinet has approved the issuance of drafting instructions for the preparation of the bill. So we're now going to be preparing those instructions based on what will be implemented from the recommendations. We are agreed that the monarchy should be abolished.
I rise to open the debate on the bill entitled An Act to Amend Section 61 of the Constitution of Jamaica to provide for new words of enactment. This act constitutes the first legislative step in a proposed series of amendments intended to give effect to a constitution enacted by the Parliament of Jamaica and approved by the people of Jamaica.
I'm pleased to report that the contract for the development of the Jamaica Legal Information Portal was awarded to the European consulting firm Softengi. Work commenced in February of this year, and a draft design of the portal has already been completed.
The first is a bill entitled An Act to Repeal the Jamaica Constitution Order in Council 1962 to provide for the recognition of the Constitution of Jamaica as an act of the Parliament and people of Jamaica, to amend the Constitution of Jamaica to provide for a non-monarchical head of state. The second bill is a bill entitled An Act to Provide for the Votes of Electors to be taken with respect to any amendment of the Constitution of Jamaica required to be submitted to electors pursuant to Section 49, subsection 3 of the Constitution, commonly known as a referendum.
Bill entitled An Act to Repeal Jamaica Constitution, Order in Council 1962, and to provide for the legal recognition and operation of the Constitution of Jamaica, notwithstanding the repeal of that Order in Council, to amend the Constitution of Jamaica to provide for a non-monarchical head of state, thereby establishing Jamaica as a republic, to make other amendments in respect of certain provisions of the Constitution, and to provide for connected matters, is today tabled in this Honourable House.
Step back in time to 1907, when a devastating earthquake struck Jamaica's capital, reshaping the city and leaving an indelible mark on Jamaica's history.
Air distilled, suspended animation, moment transfixed. 3:30 p.m. Monday, January 14, 1907, etched invariably in history as the instant that Kingston was changed forever.
At 3 o'clock, God is going to speak. And then, of course, at 3:30, about 3:30, the earthquake struck. I saw this building before. Now this is what it looks like. this is what the quake did.
Kingston destroyed by earthquake. Let them know what had happened to their city, what had happened to the capital of Jamaica.
Just 3 days after the great earthquake of 1907 struck downtown Kingston, several news headlines painting desolate pictures of the city were being circulated in the international press.
Horror and gloom increase. Entire streets leveled and crowds of frightened, shrieking people.
The shock lasted nearly 36 seconds. Pillars of smoke rose in Harbour Street, and soon afterwards, flames shot into the sky.
In semi-darkness, 600 bodies recovered, only a few buildings left standing and not one safe.
Photography was essentially in its infancy in Jamaica at the turn of the 20th century. Even though several persons operated photography studios, the art form was not a well-developed genre. Photography was more or less a pastime, a way of creating keepsakes like postcards to send abroad to relatives and friends. Several images of 1907 were relayed to foreigners, utilities downed, scavengers in rubble, Kingstonians dazed at the fate which had befallen their city. Many of the more poignant depictions of Kingston circa January 14, 1907, therefore, remained outside of the city and Jamaica for decades. Today, searches on the largest internet-based marketplace, eBay, yield an image of the 1907 Great Kingston earthquake for sale every day. The event is one of the most reported of its time and ranks highly on the list of the best photographed. Telegraph and postal services were limited by the disaster, and so the foreign media had to improvise when compiling pictures to accompany their breaking headlines. They commissioned artists to create their own impressions of what Kingston looked like in the wake of the earthquake. Jamaica, however, had its own assembly of photographers who captured several post-quake images and amazingly managed to develop and salvage the collection. There were Theophilus Duperley, grandson of the famous Adolphe Duperley, who printed lithographs of the 1831 Christmas Rebellion and the Emancipation celebrations in Kingston in 1836. H.J. Calm, E.E. Grant, better known for his tourism-related photographs, and John Clary. However, Dr. Boxer has attributed most of the surviving quake photographs to John Clary, perhaps the second most famous photographer of that era. Clary had compiled an album with some 23 images of the destroyed city, and an additional 18 of his post-quake photographs are owned by the National Library. The exhibition's curator, however, votes E.E. Grant's photographs most emotive and interesting.
It's been over 300 years, and marks of the 1692 earthquake still linger on the city it struck the hardest. Port Royal was one of the busiest and wealthiest ports of the West Indies, and infamously labeled the wickedest city of the period, owing to its reputation for piracy and smuggling. But when 1692's powerful quake struck the area, it submerged most of Port Royal under 40 feet of water. There were 3 separate shocks with increasing intensity, and that's the story that many know. But the wrath of the earthquake spread far beyond that city, even onto a place called Judgment Cliff in St. Thomas. The cliff is seated in the Landaway community, and if you look closely, you'll notice that a section of it is completely gone. Judgment Cliff got its name from the story of how an entire community was wiped out during the 1692 earthquake. That story has passed down through generations in the community, and it's one residents readily recount to curious visitors.
The Judgment Cliff I was informed that they used to have a plantation up there run by a serious, wicked slave master. Imposed draconian measures on the farmers, and one of the reasons why they resided on the cliff, that in case the slave wanted to run away, they would have difficulty in doing so. The place collapsed. I guess during the same time Port Royal earthquake was taking place. That was 1692.
Them say when it happens at night, well, what I really know is they say a man, a rooster, and a bull save. The man gone out, gone wild. The rooster fly off of the roost. The bull broke down the pen, gone out, gone wild, same like the man. Understand? It was a plantation to people who lived there too. Everybody get covered out.
It's a history long written, but Judgment Cliff stands as just one example of the aftermath of an earthquake. And as scientists warn of the possibilities of an increase in earthquakes globally, it's a history that could easily be repeated.
Up next, we'll look at a feature highlighting essential tips for earthquake preparedness and awareness, emphasizing how to stay safe before, during, and after an earthquake.
The country experiences, on average, in excess of 200 earthquakes per annum, which are minor, which most of them are minor in intensity, having magnitude of less than 4.0. These seismic events has proven how vulnerable Jamaica is to earthquake and its secondary events.
In 2023, Jamaica recorded 345 localized earthquakes, but only 14 were felt.
This is as a result of that tectonic movement or that plate movement that we see being propagated in our region, more or less in the Northern Caribbean, where we find Cuba, Jamaica, Hispaniola, Puerto Rico. We tend to find that that activity itself is as a response to the plate motion that is recorded there.
The unpredictability of earthquakes makes it harder to plan for them.
While there are signs when we expect excessive rainfalls, we can tell you whether there is going to be flooding. Even the temperature we can tell you based on the science. But we can't tell you when or where the earthquake will occur.
And that's why Jamaicans need to be more aware of earthquakes and, as best as possible, be prepared at all times. The Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, intends to continue its drive to increase population awareness on safety measures and best practices.
This is being pursued through a multi-sectorial, multi-agency approach to strengthen disaster preparedness and risk reduction, in addition to increasing disaster resilience in preparing for, responding to, and ultimately recovering from adverse earthquake events.
Even with this, the Minister of Local Government and Community Development still questions how aware Jamaicans are about the dangers of earthquakes.
As a country, we need now to expand our thinking. We need to ensure that our program of information and education is not just in the month of January, but every week, every month of the year. The question of earthquake and the consciousness as a country that is going to be required to take us through.
The ODPEM has been tasked with getting the message out about earthquake awareness and preparedness.
Going into the schools and engaging the business communities, the private sector is very important. We have to expand the net of working relationships right across the communities. We need to take this message outside of the fine location of the terrain over and to go into communities, in inner city communities, where they might think about earthquake only when it happens.
And so the task of the mitigation agency is to make people aware and prepared for earthquakes all year long.
And over the remaining portion of this year, we just start the year, I have tasked the ODPEM to ensure that every month there are simple messages that can be played. Simple messages. You don't need anything that is sophisticated.
Minister Mackenzie wants students to help as well.
Young people is more driven to technology than many of us do. And these are areas that I believe we can use the messaging, using our school children to help to pass this message around the importance of educating ourselves around earthquake and all the associated effects that an earthquake will.
In addition to making the public aware, other agencies, including the Jamaica Constabulary Force, are reviewing their earthquake policies.
In the Jamaica Constabulary Force, we do have an earthquake policy. And this is now under revision again, because we recognize that we really need to do more in respect to earthquake drills, practices, and so on.
The Jamaica Fire Brigade, too, will revisit some of its training programs among staff and community groups. The October 2023 earthquake has inspired changes.
Coming from our last experience, we realized, though, apart from responders, we do need more trained fire safety inspectors, because we were overwhelmed with requests to do damage assessment to see if the buildings are safe for persons to re-enter. So we are also training more fire safety inspectors.
But at the end of the day, the dissemination of information is vital.
There cannot be too much information out there in the public domain when it comes on to take necessary precautions around disaster.
We're at the end of today's show, but be sure to join us again tomorrow for another lineup geared towards providing you with information on the government's policies and initiatives for building a better Jamaica. You may visit our website, jis.gov.jm, to rewatch this show or to catch up on the others we have on the site. I'm Lisa Rowe. Thank you for watching. Until next time, walk good.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.